So, how do you tell if someone is enlightened or not? Since I am in my freedom from suffering rant series of videos, let's talk about that because that's really one of the biggest criterias that we use to tell if somebody is enlightened or not. Do they suffer? I mean, that's a bad criteria to tell because, first of all, um, if you actually meet someone and you're trying to tell if they're enlightened, like how do you tell if they suffer? What very often happens is you be really, really mean to them and find out what happens. Well, that's not nice. And maybe like if you really go back through, I love the Zen teachings because Zen masters were real badasses, you know. If you went and you were really, really mean to a Zen teacher, they wouldn't be all that nice back. You would end up with the short stick. So maybe there's another reason not to use it as a criteria to tell if somebody is enlightened, because if they really are, you might end up in really bad trouble with whatever it is you choose to do to them. But it's just not useful at all because and so whatever you're using as your criteria to tell if somebody else is enlightened is also your criteria that you're using to tell if you are enlightened. And you are going to take a teaching like freedom from suffering and just really use that to beat yourself up with as well. So lighten up. Suffer, don't suffer, be happy, don't be happy. I mean, it's just all part of being a human being. But here's the real secret is that it doesn't matter if you can tell if somebody else is enlightened. What does it matter? The only way that you would be able to tell is if you were enlightened yourself. And if you're enlightened yourself, it's like, stop bothering. What does it matter? I mean, we all know that everybody, in their core, in their essence, is enlightened anyway. So who cares? And maybe someone isn't enlightened, is pretending that they are. And they're gathering tons of disciples and it's really terrible and they're making a cult and they're doing all sorts of things. Well, yeah. I mean, people don't even really have to pretend to be enlightened to do that. They can get a cult together just by being a politician. They can get a cult together in a religion that doesn't even have enlightenment. Christianity has tons of cults. I mean, you can have music cults, you can do all sorts of things. You know, Instead, use your criteria to figure out, is this a decent human being or not? Is this person teaching things that are useful? And all those sorts of criteria to tell if somebody was enlightened. The only way you can tell if somebody else is enlightened is if you are enlightened as well. Because if you knew what enlightenment was, if you even had a little bit of an idea what knowing who you are is, it's so obvious you'd be it. And so then again, like, why bother? Why bother about everybody else? They're doing what they're doing. You can learn just as much from someone who's unenlightened as you can from somebody who's enlightened. And it kind of doesn't matter because we live in such a crazy world. Like my teacher, Osho, was not only enlightened, but incredibly brilliant and eloquent and able to talk about it in a way that just made so much sense. And if it wasn't for him, I would never be awake. I know that for sure. So, but he was so brilliant, and yet he created such an insane mess. or I will say the people around him, came together and created an incredible mess that, when I really think about it, it's like, how could he have prevented everybody from being so insane when he was trying to teach people how to be free? And so we're in the same exact situation here. Someone who's completely, totally enlightened is going to have a really, really hard time making a positive difference, just exactly the same as someone who's not enlightened is going to be having a hard time making a real difference. It's way easier to make a giant mess. So it's just not a criteria. It's not something to worry about. Just keep working on yourself. Who are you? How can you wake up? Listen to people who give you good ideas and good clues and have some good energy about what it's like, the possibility, the actual possibility for you to wake up, to know who you are.